Hello, property nomads. Hope you are well. Yes, it is episode 400, and we are going to be talking about big changes that are planned for permitted development rights and things that are going to affect the commercial property sector moving forwards. Before we do that, just want to say a massive thank you to you, the listener, for continuing to believe in us. When we started this journey years ago, the idea of making it even to episode 100 was quite a daunting prospect, and now we are at episode 400. It does feel quite surreal, and we can only do that thanks to your support, for you to keep believing in us, and also from the amount of content suggestion that we actually get from listeners as well. So really, it's a massive thank you to you for your continued support. Here's to another 400 episodes in some way, shape or form. And this is quite an important episode today, purely because there is a massive proposal that is going to be taking place soon that could make some massive changes to the commercial property sector. Now, I'm not going to go sort of too in depth into what's currently in place, because I don't want to be providing any sort of false information. But what I can say is that there are quite a few things that are being lined up. There's a general like a general consensus, like a consultation period. That's what I was looking for. There's a consultation period that will end at the end of September, and then the proposed changes will then go through the rigmarole of going through Parliament. And if we're lucky, that might be at the end of this year, or it could be at the start of 2024. Once that's all done, then I believe it takes 4 weeks after that to be enshrined into law. So if all these things do happen, it creates a lot of opportunities for you and I in order to acquire land, current buildings, and to be able to convert them into residential units a lot easier than it might already be able to do so. What we'll do is also put a link to the consultation into the podcast show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the YouTube description below, so do go and check it out, and feel free to add your comments to the consultation. So going through it at the moment, Class MA, there's a few changes that are planned for Class MA. So currently you are limited to 1,500 square meters of floor space, but the proposal is to either double this to 3,000 or completely remove the limit altogether. This is great news, because this will mean that larger buildings that come under Class MA will be allowed to be converted moving forward. So that could include massive department stores. Happy days. There'll be loads of other things that go with that, but that's the key thing to take away from that. Hotels, which are currently C1, will be able to be converted to C3 residential. Now, at the moment, you can do that, but only with full planning. What the proposal is to mean that you can do it under permitted development. And there might be some restrictions depending on where you operate in the country, in order to protect tourism, for example. And it's not clear at the moment how current serviced accommodation units may or may not be affected by that proposed change. But in a nutshell, C1, for example, hotels, into residential via permitted development. Watch out for that. Things like hot food takeaways, betting offices. There's a current limit of 150 square meters, but that might be increased to 300 square meters, or that might be removed altogether. A similar to Class MA, they're looking at either doubling the floor limit or getting rid of it altogether. Staying with anything that falls under Class N, which is things like amusement arcades and casinos. At the moment, 150 square meter limit. Proposal was either to double that or to remove it completely. Class G, which is extending the permitted development right to locations above commercial properties. So this is in effect if you've got any up to 2 flats that's above a Class E, so or bet an office, payday loan shop, anything like that. At the moment, if you get a building like that, you're able to create 2 flats above the commercial unit. What they're looking to do is to double that, so you have the ability to create 4. So again, that could provide more dwellings, that could provide a bigger profit margin for your developments moving forward. Class Q, which is a change from agricultural building, mainly barns, to residential. At the moment, you can currently create up to 5 dwellings using the maximum of 865 square meters. But the proposal is to double this from 5 dwellings to 10 dwellings and create a single maximum of either 100 square meters or 150 square meters per dwelling. The maximum limit, it says here, would rise to 1,000 square meters. That doesn't seems a bit wishy-washy there. Those numbers don't quite seem to add up at the time of saying that. But anyway, there's a proposal there for Class Q to double the amount of dwellings that you can do from there. There's also something to make adding extensions to barns easier as well. There's a few others on here, other rural buildings to flexible commercial use. So maybe you want to change it to storage and distribution, or even a hotel. That's absolutely fine. What they're looking to do, it comes from the Class R. The proposed floor space at the moment is 500 square meters, but that they are looking to increase that to 1,000 square meters and also allow for multiple uses at the same time. So for example, you might have some agricultural buildings, you might want to turn that into a mini hotel and then a shop, for example. So you'll be able to do that moving forwards. There's some other things on here with agricultural development on land over 5 hectares. Again, this is for extensions to existing barns. It's proposed to also increase this to 25% without the need to seek prior approval. Great. Extended barns could see the size increase from 1,000 square meters to 1,500 square meters. So that's a 50% increase. Any new buildings would be limited to 1,000 square meters. Fair enough. Similar under Part 6 Class B as well. And the other key thing is also looking to make adding extensions a lot easier to commercial buildings. So at the moment, Class A allows for shops, offices, etc., to increase by 50% or 100 square meters, whichever is the lesser. So you can extend up to that. But the proposal is to increase this limit to 100% or 200 square meters. And the other key thing that I like to point out is Class B, the temporary use of land for up to 28 days. So at the moment, Class B restricts the holding of a market to 14 days per annum. The proposal is to increase this period to either 28 days or another number of days. So that could allow more flexibility for agents and loads of people, other people moving forwards. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, the consultation period finishes at the end of September. All being well, they'll go through government, could be November, December, if not, maybe January 2024. And then all of that will become law. There are also loads of other bits and bobs that they're looking to do, but what we'll do, we'll put a link in the show notes so you can have a look at all of the proposals. What this does do is this creates opportunity. So although there are already some very good opportunities out there, having these proposals, assuming these proposals are accepted, what that will mean moving forwards is a lot more opportunity. So adding dwellings here, adding dwellings there, changing A to B, for example, changing hotels to residential dwellings. All of these things are going to become a lot easier for you, becomes a lot easier for us, and also helps us to create more dwellings for the population to use. Because we said on this podcast before, and we'll say it time and time again, in our lifetimes, supply for housing is going to be an awful lot higher than the demand. So the demand for housing, is going to be substantially higher than the supply of housing. So in terms of basic economics, we're going to be in a good position to be able to provide more dwellings, because we know that the demand for the dwellings is going to be there. Link will go in the show notes. Once again, a massive thank you to you. It's episode 400. It's an incredible milestone to achieve. If you haven't already followed us on our YouTube channel, please do go and hunt down Property Nomads. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's always some extra content on there that isn't always on the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go head over to iTunes or Spotify podcast platform and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you very much. Until